Hello, I'm Ross Jaynes, and this is Page by Page, a show dedicated to promoting literacy, authors, their works, and their words. Today, with me, I have on the other side of the chair, this doesn't happen very often, ladies and gentlemen, Adam Southern, the director of the Maury County Public Library and author of Mad Murray and a couple other books. But today, we're going to talk about Mad Murray. Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Ross?
Doing all right, doing all right. It's kind of weird being over here and you not being here. You know, it's very different.
Yeah, I agree.
Very different. We'd been talking about doing this kind of concept for a while, you know, where we brought you in and interviewed you. So let me just get right off the bat. What gave you the inspiration to write a book like Mad Murray?
Well, I've been doing ghost tours in Maury County on our historic public square for a number of years, and people are always asking, why don't you write these into a book? And finally got tired of people asking, so I did. And I tried to include in the book stories that we didn't cover on the ghost tour because, you know, several of these stories are miles from the courthouse square. We can't walk that far. So those are included in here, and also murder stories and stories of mayhem.
Right, you've got ghost stories. You also have some murder and some mystery kind of stories in there too. What would you say gave you the inspiration to do this particular book, not just with the ghost side, but with the ghost stories, but with the murder and mayhem and all the other things that go along with it? I think there's a lot of people that would enjoy, you know, knowing about that.
Yeah, like you said, it's not just ghosts, and a lot of people think, ghosts, I don't want to read that. Who believes in ghosts? So that was the main reason for including the murder and the mayhem stories, because the people who won't read the ghost stories might like the murder stories. And plus, there were some really strange murders and different eccentric characters that used to live in Columbia. And I said it numerous times in the book, lest we forget. We don't want to forget these people. Right now, we have some eccentric folks living in Maury County now, but they're really nothing compared to the eccentrics we used to have. So we want to remember those people, so future generations will know who Miss Lizzie Porter was, people like that.
So Adam, give us a little bit about your past. Tell us about how you got to this point, especially being, you know, director of the library now and writing this book. How did you get here today?
Okay. Oh, well, I grew up in Culleoka, graduated from high school there. Went to college at Columbia State, and before that, even during high school, I started working part-time at the library, and I thought, you know, this is going to be my job until I move off to college. And I actually fell in love with the job and just stayed here and changed my focus in education to library science. Got my master's from UK in library science, and now I'm director of the library, but also kind of a part-time author too. So.
Well, you're not just a part-time author. You've got 3 books out so far, right? Talk about your other 2 for a minute. We'll go back to Mad Murray.
Sure. The first book that I published was kind of a pictorial history of Maury County. It was called Maury County, A History in Vintage Postcards. And I've been collecting postcards for 4 years before the book came out. And somebody said, what are you going to do with these postcards? I thought, I don't know. I'm just keeping them. Why don't you put them into a book? Okay. Didn't have any idea how you do a book, how you lay it out. But I learned on the fly, so I put it together and found this site called Create Space, compiled it together. I made my own rough cover for it, the only book that I've made a cover for, by the way. And
it's a really nice cover. Yeah. It's a really nice cover. It's a really nice book.
Released that, and people really enjoyed the book. So we're working on volume 2 of that coming up pretty soon. And the latest book to come out was called Southern Stories. We really haven't had an official release for that one yet. Hopefully by the end of September this year we will. But it's a compilation of all my writings. I write sometimes for the Daily Herald, submit columns there, and also have a blog. So this book is a compilation of those articles and stories.
Awesome, because you're also a host on Maury County Now, you know, the show we end up producing. And then, of course, the host for this show, you know, right now, which is pretty cool. So, I mean, you're a busy guy. So, back to Mad Murray. Okay. What is your favorite story out of it? Because, I mean, I've got a couple, but I know you've got one that really kind of piques your interest, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think my favorite story, and that's really a hard question, but I would have to say that my favorite story is about Woodruff's Drugstore. Woodruff's Drugstore stood on the corner of 7th Street and Garden in Columbia, Tennessee, and the building's still there, the business isn't. But there was a lady that went there every day and just sat in the window. And of course, a lot of people talked about why she sat in this window every day. And Most everybody says that she went to a gypsy when she was a young girl or a fortune teller, and they told her, "You're going to meet the man of your dreams at Walter's drugstore." And so she went every day trying to find this love. And when she grew older, she never changed her style of dress. She still dressed like she did when she was a teenager, and didn't have many friends. I mean, everybody thought she was that crazy lady that was sat in the window at Walter's drugstore, and I guess she was. But she outlived her family, and when she died, there was no one left to put her death date on her tombstone at Rose Hill Cemetery. And it's kind of sad. And one day, if I sell enough copies of this book, I might have her death date put on her grave, because I really connected with that story for some odd reason. I connected with this story.
It's very interesting, like most of the stories out of there. I mean, they're very, very odd, very Southern,
Yes.
no pun intended. Very Southern, I mean, mystery ghosts, sort of things, which is, I mean, it's a great book. It's very, very interesting. It's wonderful. One of the other really interesting stories out of Mad Murray is about Miss Lizzie Porter. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Miss Lizzie, when she died, was 105 years old, and which sounds like a long time to live, but the longest living person in Murray County's history was 149 when they died. So there you go. But Miss Lizzie was 105 years old, lived in this large rambling house up here on North High Street, and it was just a mystery to everybody in Murray County. What was inside of this house? What was she like? Well, what she was like was a little crazy. She was the typical Southern eccentric lady sitting on her porch in the summertime wearing a long fur coat. And everybody was sure she kept a pistol under her coat, and she probably did, because one of the things that she would do, if you walked through her yard, picked her flowers during the day, at night she would take these little walks and she would shoot up your house at night. And of course everybody thought, that they're making that up. That's not a true story. But when she died, they found this concrete urn by her back door, and it was full of shell casings where she came home after her walks and just emptied her gun.
Wow.
And, she had one or two people that she trusted and allowed to come into her home. One was Bowser Frakes, and he went into her home and replaced all of her bullets with blanks. So she still went on these walks, but this time she was shooting blanks at your house now. And she had chickens that lived in her house, and when she died, they found a bed with 7 mattresses on it and cash stuck underneath every one of the mattresses, gold coins in the desk. And her estate raised several $1,000s and actually helped build this library that we're in now. So if it wasn't for Miss Lizzie, we probably wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation today.
That's a very, very interesting story.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of Murray County's finest. So you haven't really had a release for Southern Stories, as you've already said, but you do have some other projects on the horizon, right?
Right. I'm working on republishing Civil War in Murray County, Tennessee. Jill Garrett and Maurice Lightfoot put that book out a number of years ago, and the library has permission to reprint it. So that's one of my future projects, is to reprint that book for the library, but also another postcard book. We'd like to release volume 2 of Murray County, A History and Vintage Postcards. But of course, like every other Southerner that's ever picked up a pen, I want to write that great Southern novel one day.
Of course.
But with work schedule and, of course, all the other stuff that I do, it's kind of hard to find the time. But it's always on the back burner, always collecting stories. And I'm glad to live in a place like Columbia where there's so many people that I can draw from and kind of say, well, they make a great character in a book one day, and jot that down. You might end up in it, actually.
Well, we'll see what happens. I'm already on the cover, technically, so yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, that's a good point. All of my last 2 books, Ross has created these beautiful covers for them. That's really what sells the book. People do judge books by the cover, and I thank Ross for doing that. Beautiful covers.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you. I appreciate you letting me do it. You, of course, being that you've been involved with the library so long, have a passion for literacy and making sure that people read. That's one of the reasons why we created the show to begin with. Adam and I are both executive producers of this show. Why is that literary component, why do you think it's important, period, but especially today?
Yeah. Well, we put too much emphasis on, higher education today. I mean, of course, I went on and got a master's degree, went to college. A lot of people are struggling with that decision today. They don't know if they're going to make it to college or whatever, but even if you don't go to college, learning never stops, and the library is a central part of this lifelong learning. You can come in and borrow books on a wide variety of subjects, learn on your own. That's how our founding fathers of this nation were educated themselves, the great majority of them. And Benjamin Franklin, of course, learned a lot from public libraries, founded the first one in Philadelphia, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But, of course, you know, reading is so essential. You can hardly do anything if you don't know how to read. And that's the main focus of the library, is getting people into the habit of reading, because the more you read, the more you'll learn. And hopefully the more you learn, the more you'll earn. And it's just really... it's building blocks. One thing builds on another.
Yeah, I think the library is one of the most important places in our community, because it's one thing that everybody can kind of rally around to help, you know, inspire, and we should save this place. I mean, it's a wonderful institution.
Right.
You know.
And I don't want to live in a society that's not educated.
Definitely not. No.
Really, I think the more your community knows how to read, and the more literate it is, the better it will be.
And it's gotten a little bit easier too because of the TN Reads program, right?
Right. Using the Reads program, it's as easy as pulling up your smartphone and hitting download. You can get a free library book on your phone. So
yeah, I've gotten a number of audiobooks off there, so I definitely appreciate that service.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful one as well. Well, Adam, thanks for being here today. How can people find out more about you, the public library, your books? Where can people go to find out all this information?
Okay. Find me on Facebook. Just ask to be a friend of mine. That way you can find out more information about me. My books are on Amazon. I have an author's page there. The library, of course, you can find us online at murraycountylibrary.org. We're also on Facebook, or just come in and see us, 211 West 8th Street here in Columbia.
That's awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching Page by Page. Help support your local library.